Hello and welcome back to another video. I thought it would be fun to do a little Q&A today, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I asked you some questions over on my Instagram, so if you're not following me already, you should definitely follow me there. So let's just get into it. So if you don't already know, my name is Emily. I am a slower runner training for my first ultra marathon. I'm going to be running 50 kilometers, which is 31 miles in October. So I have a feeling a lot of the questions are going to be revolved around the 50k. Are you scared for the 50k, or do you have enough confidence after the marathon? Okay, let's start off with this one. So I feel semi-confident for it. I think obviously I know that I did the marathon, I completed it, which was my goal. My goal for the 50k is going to be to complete it again. I'm not going to have a particular time that I want to get. I just want to finish it in one piece and not get injured and not hate it. Those are the goals. I think the most nerve-wracking thing about training for a long distance race is the training itself. It's not necessarily the run, the end run, that it's scary. It's everything on the lead up is the hardest part of training for a long distance race. So one thing that I am slightly nervous for is just getting back into the swing of long distance running, because if you followed me on here for a while, you'll know that I did my marathon and then I did a 5k just to see if I could get a little bit speedier, just a bit of fun, to be honest, and a bit of a break from all the long distance running. So getting back into running long distance, I think, is going to be tough mentally. Just, it's sometimes hard to motivate yourself to go out on those runs when you know you're going to be out for hours and hours at a time, especially as a slower runner, where running takes longer than if you were, you know, really speedy and smashing at runs super fast. So I think I know I can do the distance and I know I can finish it. It's just the journey to get there is the scariest part for me. What running shoes are you using at the moment? I need some new ones. So I run in mainly Brooks. I have worn Brooks since 2019, so a very bloody long time. At the minute I'm running in the Ghosts. It's the most up-to-date version. I'll put a picture of it on the screen so that you can see. I also really love the Glycerins. They're a bit more cushiony, so if you like something that's a bit spongier and a bit bouncier, then I would go for those over the Ghosts, because the Ghosts are quite sturdy, I guess. I mean, I'm not a shoe expert, okay? I'm just going off how it feels. I really love Brooks at the minute, and yeah, that's kind of what I run in most of the time. I'm not the kind of person that has like 500 pairs of trainers. I really don't have the space in this little flat, and also I just don't want to have loads of essentially the same thing when I found something that works really well for me. So yeah. What do you eat in a day? So I don't think I'll ever make like a full what I eat in a day video, just because it changes so much, and I don't know, I don't watch what I eat in a day videos, and I only want to put content out there that I actually would want to watch and something that I actually get joy from making. But in a normal day, I would say I'm not really a huge snacker. I tend to have like 3 big meals and then a dessert, because I always need something sweet at the end of the day. So for breakfast, something is not like normal for me would be overnight oats, or I basically do the same ingredients as the overnight oats but have it as a smoothie, so it's like still really filling and still got loads of oats in there. And then for lunch, I'll maybe have like a bagel, avocado, some sort of like sandwich, like a chickpea sandwich with like vegan mayo. And then for dinner, it really depends. I feel like I have like 4 meals that I make all the time. So number 1 would be peanut noodle soup, sweet and sour tofu, oh, and some sort of pasta. At the minute, I've really been loving the sun-dried tomato pasta. And then dessert, I've been really loving baked oats or just a bit of chocolate, you know, easy. What was your background in training / sports in general before you started running? I have basically 0 background in any sports or runnings before I actually started running as a hobby. Primary school, did a few swimming galas, came last. High school in like year 8 or year 9. So bearing in mind I was like, how old are you in year 8 and year 9? 13? 14. Did a cross country run, came dead last out of like 60 people, so embarrassing. Never ran again after that, really. And then when I got to uni, I started doing, do you remember Bloggalates? She saw me through my like fear of the gym, because I didn't want to go to the gym at uni, and so I just did her workouts in my room. Then I ran my first half marathon in 2019 with some friends, hated it so much, trained for it really wrong, that I didn't run again for 2 years, and here we are. How fast are you running intervals? Okay, so usually for me, my interval runs are probably anywhere between 5:45 per kilometre to 6:40, 6:50 per kilometre. I would say roughly, like that's a guesstimate from what I'm trying to remember from my training plan. And obviously the shorter the distance, the quicker, and then the longer the distance, the slower my pace. How do you deal with low motivation and other mental health issues when training for a race? I am very lucky that I haven't really had any mental health problems for a very long time. I used to suffer pretty badly with anxiety for maybe a period of like a year, and I don't honestly I don't know how I would have done any sort of training then. Like, even just doing the day-to-day was hard. So low motivation I can speak on, and I think sometimes you have to listen to your body. Like, if you are genuinely tired, there is a difference with low motivation, feeling like you just need a rest, either if it's like a mental rest or a physical rest. If you do need the rest, take the rest and try and either fit that training run in elsewhere or just skip it. To be honest, I don't think everybody would give you that advice, but I'm running for fun and to challenge myself. I'm not trying to take it too seriously, so I would always prioritize how I feel over what is on my training plan. That being said, I've been trying to get back into running and get back into a routine on the lead up to this 50k. So there have been times the last couple of weeks as I've been in the start of the training block where I have not felt motivated and I've just actually had to go out and do it. 9 times out of 10, the hardest part is actually getting out of the door, whether you're going for a run, whether you're going to the gym, and when you're actually there and you're actually doing it, it's really not that bad. It's just everything before is so much harder. So just try and get yourself out of the door, even if you just start off with a walk and then run after that. And then in terms of having other mental health issues when training for a run, I think a lot of people say that running is like therapy, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there's a reason that we have therapy and we have medication, and that exists for a reason. Maybe do something a little bit gentler and something that's a bit more achievable, like just going for a walk, rather than setting a specific goal, because I'm just trying to think back to how I felt when I was really anxious. I knew I had a big goal, like a 10k or whatever it is, and I'd booked in for a race. That would make me feel more anxious, knowing that I had that and that I wasn't in a place to commit to training 100%. Don't put pressure on yourself is what I'm trying to say. Take it really easy. Do you use energy gels, gummies and or electrolytes? If so, how and when to take them? So I'm obviously not an expert on this, but I do use electrolytes and energy blocks. I am going to be testing some different fueling strategies, so stay tuned for that. When I was training for my marathon, I used the Humantra electrolytes, and I usually, if I had like a super long run, like anything half marathon or above, the night before I would have some electrolytes, obviously carb up the day before, a couple of days before, and then in the morning I would have electrolytes, and then on the run I would just take loads of water with me. In terms of energy gels, I really like the Cliff gel blocks, and when I was run walking a lot of the time for my training, basically every other interval I had one chew, which meant that I didn't need to fuel like every half an hour, which is usually when people recommend. I kind of like to just graze throughout, and I just knew that like every other interval, okay, I'll have one little gel and then I have some water, because the full packet of Cliff blocks I think is 60 grams of carbs, and you essentially need 60 grams of carbs per hour when you start doing long distance. Again, not a nutritionist, anything like that, just has worked really well for me. How do you motivate yourself? I'm really struggling, especially in the heat. So I've been really struggling as well. It's been so fucking hot here in London that I just can't go for a run. Even like 20 degrees for me is slightly too hot for a run as you start to warm up. So I've been using the treadmill a lot. I think half of my runs so far I've probably done on a treadmill. It is pretty boring, but if you can find something that you enjoy to watch or listen to take your mind off it, it is really, really helpful, and I would actually much rather do that than struggle in the heat because it's too much. How do you run longer distances? I'm a beginner and I would love some tips. Start doing shorter distances and then build up really, really gradually, because long distances are really fun, but obviously if you increase your weekly mileage really quickly, you could get injured. So I would definitely recommend getting a training plan if you're interested in one. There's a link in my bio. And start off really small. Start off with a 5k and then build it from there, 5, 10, maybe then you do a half, but don't set out to run crazy distances really far away from what you're not used to, because that's when you can get injured. When I go running, I'm still afraid of being judged because I run slowly. Any advice? So it's really hard. I think the more that you go out there and feel uncomfortable, the quicker you become used to it. And you just stop feeling that way. I used to not run because I thought I was too slow, and it did really stop me for so long. Unfortunately, I think you just have to go out there and you have to do it, and you have to really try and not care what people think. To be honest, 90% of the time, no one's looking at you anyway. I think it's really hard to tell what pace someone is running at when they're running. Like I never look at people and think, God, they look slow. It's just not a thing. Like, you're out there and you're running. I really don't think people are dissecting the pace that you're running at and what it looks like you're running at, if that makes sense. We're so in our own heads and we care so much about how we appear to other people. But the fact is, it's that we care so much and nobody else cares. And it's really comforting to know that no one actually gives a shit about you. As sad as it sounds, like nobody cares. Another thing that you could do, if you are lucky enough to have a more inclusive running group in your area that caters to slower paces, try and find one of those. Or if you have a friend that's interested in taking up running with you, that's another really good way, because there's definitely power in numbers. I feel less embarrassed about anything that I'm doing if I'm with someone else that you know. So that's another tip. Being a fellow runner, I found it challenging to fit in training as it takes longer. I wonder how you approach this. So I definitely feel this in like just being slower obviously takes us longer to finish our runs. And when we're doing long distance running, it means that you're spending half your Sunday doing your long run, which sometimes is annoying when you want to be doing other things. In terms of how I fit this in, I'm really, really lucky that I work for myself. I have worked for myself now for 2 years. So being freelance really helps me create a schedule that works for me, and I can be way more flexible. So fitting the runs in isn't necessarily a problem that I have, that other people do have. And to be quite honest, I think if I still had my 9-to-5 job where I was going in the office all the time and I had to be at my desk, I don't think I would be training for a long distance race, to be quite honest. Like, I think the time commitment that you need is insane, and people that have really demanding jobs, I am in awe of how people actually do it, because I personally don't think I would have the willpower or the motivation to do that after working crazy amounts of hours. So I know that's not helpful, but it's the most honest answer that I can give you, is it works for me because I'm a lot more flexible. I've been having the absolute worst luck with my camera. It's basically too hot in my flat, so my camera keeps overheating and the video is so stop starting. It was pissing me off, okay? So I'm going to answer one more question and then we're going to have to wrap up because it's just too much. So the final question was basically how to not compare yourself on social media, which is so hard. We have grown up in an age where social media has been such a big thing and everyone's out here doing these amazing things, running so fast, and looking amazing while doing it. What's all that about? So what I would say is, the good thing about social media is you kind of have the power to choose what you want to see and what you don't want to see. So even since I started posting over the last 12 months, I've noticed way more creators appearing that are kind of a lot more normal in like a athletic sense. They're not really athletic. They haven't had, a background of running or, competitive sports or whatever. They're just normal people and they're trying to move their bodies and challenge themselves. And I think those people, to me, I love to follow. I think they're just as inspiring to me as these obviously incredible athletes that we love to follow as well. But I relate to those people a lot more and I see myself in those people. So I really enjoy their content. So looking out for more people like that, because there's definitely a lot more creators like that now, which is so great to see. Not everything is as it seems on social media. And I think we know that, but actually practicing that and reminding yourself that is easier said than done. Just try and remember that when you're having like a negative thought, like, oh, yeah, why does she look so good when she does that? Or, how is she running that fast after, only running for a year, whatever it might be. You don't really know any more than what this person is showing you, and there's going to be a lot more going on under the surface, or things you just don't know about that person's life, that you really can't compare yourself to that person because you're probably so different in so many ways. I know it's really hard because I think, especially as young women in general, speaking from a woman's perspective because I'm not a man, it's really so easy to compare yourself on social media, and sometimes you just got to give yourself a bit of a smack in the face, give yourself a bit of a shake, get off social media. I really am trying to be more mindful of how much time I actually spend online, especially now with things I'm posting and just kind of my own personal usage of Instagram and scrolling and stuff. I think there's a lot of good things that can come out of social media, but I also think that as people, it's really weird that we sit and stare at a screen for hours and hours every single day, and it's not good, and we're not meant to do that. So yeah, I always notice that the times I'm feeling the worst is just after I've been in a little scroll hole for far too long. So just try and get outside, get off your phone. You're not missing out on anything if you don't look at your phone for a few hours. And that was it for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I know it was a bit different, but I thought I would do a bit more of a sit down chat video than what I normally do. And apologies that my camera is being a little bitch, and I'm now sat on the floor with all my crap on my bed behind me. and my fan that's quite literally keeping me alive over the last few nights. Thank you very, very much for watching. I think the next video will probably be a couple of weeks of ultramarathon training, because this is the end of my second week. I've got one more run for this week, which I'm going to go and do tomorrow. So yeah, look out for that, which should be up next Sunday. So I will see you in the next video, and thank you very much for watching.